Thank you for joining this training on the progress report for round one of the Bridge to Recovery for Adult Day Services grant. As I said, this is only for round one. So if you have a round two project, please seek the appropriate training for that. But during this training session, we are going to walk through how to submit your progress report form for your round one project. Just a quick overview to begin. You must submit quarterly progress reports throughout the life of this grant program, and you will submit each of those through the online platform Grants Connect. You must submit a report each quarter, and that's true even if you did not complete any grant activities during that quarter. You still will need to submit a progress report. As part of that progress report, you will summarize the goals, progress made, and outcomes for each objective or activity in your project description and approved budget. You will explain how you used your funds and the impact they created in the community you serve, and you will explain any challenges or changes that occurred during the grant period. It's important to keep in mind that if you do not submit a detailed and timely progress report, your reimbursement payments could be delayed. So it's important to get those in on time each quarter. We also have some additional tips to help you as you complete your progress report. Please note you cannot revise a progress report after you submit it. If you do need to make any revisions, please email CDA_bridge to recovery at pcgus.com to open a ticket for those revisions. Again, if you need to make changes after you submit your report. We ask that you do send any revisions to PCG at least 72 hours before the deadline for that progress report. In your report, you'll also want to explain any staffing changes in detail, including the names of any new employees. You will need to provide supporting documentation for these staffing changes when you submit the invoice reimbursement request form. And finally, if you have completed your project, please do be sure to indicate that on your progress report. We do need to know it. Just as a reminder, here are the reporting cycles and due dates. So you can see you submit one each quarter throughout the year, and you can see those due dates for each there on the right. You will receive an email reminder when it is time to submit your quarterly progress report. So I mentioned earlier briefly, but here is some of the information included in the report. So you should be prepared to report on the following areas if applicable to your grant. So you'll report on your grantee and project information. You'll report on the progress on your approved objectives and activities, and that includes any changes or challenges, if applicable. You'll give some status updates and provide a summary of key activities for your grant project. You may respond NA for any sections that do not apply to you, but if you do enter NA, please also provide a brief statement explaining why that section does not apply to you for this particular reporting cycle. So progress reports, as we said, you will submit them in Grants Connect, the online platform, and they will open 30 days before the deadline. As I mentioned earlier, you will receive a reminder email when the report opens, and you can open the report from that email if you want to just use the link in there. You can also access the report from your Grants Connect account under application forms, and the report will be later labeled with the quarter number and the year for that particular report. So with that said, let's now turn to the report itself and we can walk through it together. So after you log into your Grants Connect, you'll see this home screen or a version very similar to it. From here, you can click View All My Applications here at the bottom, or you can click on Applications at the top of the page. This will take you to a screen that lists all your applications. If you have any revisions, you'll see them there at the top, and then you'll see all the applications listed below. From there, you'll want to click on the correct progress report form. As I mentioned, that form will be labeled with the quarter number and the year. If you've been awarded grants for round one and round two, make sure you fill out the correct form for that progress report. In this case, we're looking at round one. This is a sample form we're working on today, so it does just say quarterly progress report here at the bottom. But your form, as I said, will include that year and quarter in the name. So I'm going to use this sample revision request here at the top so we can see some of the auto-populated information therein. So when you click on the report, it takes you to the instructions page. This section details some of the same information we just reviewed at the start of this training. We recommend anytime you open the report that you review those tips and general instructions that are located at the bottom of the page. That'll just make it easier to submit the form appropriately and correctly. When you're ready, you just click next at the bottom of the form, and that'll move you to section 1, grantee and project information. This is the first section of the form, and it covers general information about your organization and your grant project. As you're filling out your report, please refer to your grant agreement, more specifically your budget and project descriptions, as well as any change request forms as applicable. That'll help make sure everything's correct as you fill it out. Throughout the progress report form, required fields are labeled with a red asterisk. You can see it right there next to type of facility. While completing the report, you may move between sections, but you won't be able to submit the report until all required fields contain a response. You'll see an error message at the top of a section if you missed any questions in that section. The form will also auto-save your progress as you complete it. You'll see a blue saved icon in the bottom left corner of the screen as the form is saved. If your connection is disrupted, or if you accidentally close out of your browser window, your information will still be in the form when you log back in, provided you saw that saved icon. So section 1 just starts with information about your organization. Any questions in gray throughout the progress report form will be auto-filled when you open the form. From there, you will enter the contact information for the person completing the report. This contact information is important because this is the person PCG will reach out to if there are any problems with your progress report. Next, you will indicate whether your project is complete or in progress, and if this is your final progress report. That is, if you label it complete, you'll indicate if it's your final progress report. And say yes, you'll indicate whether you're submitting your final invoice as well. Once your project is complete, you don't need to continue to submit progress reports after that. For now, we'll just mark it as in progress so we can continue on with the rest of the form. You'll then list how many invoice requests you submitted so far, and if you are behind on submitting invoice requests. If you are behind, you'll need to provide an explanation for the delay. This explanation will help us identify any issues you may be having with invoice requests and how we can help you resolve them. Next, you'll indicate whether your last invoice request included indirect costs, if applicable for your budget, and if you submitted any change requests. Once you're ready, once you've answered all the questions, you'll just click Next to move to the next section, Modifications to Timelines in your approved Objectives Activity Work Plan. So in this section, the first thing you'll do is indicate if there have been any delays with your project and provide any explanation if there have been. It's important to let us know about any delays in detail so PCG and CDA can work with you to ensure your project is finished by the grant deadline of March 31st, 2026. After that, you will then indicate your progress in each budget category that applies to your project. So for each budget category you select, in this case, salaries and wages and supplies, you'll mark it as complete or in progress. For any that you mark in progress, you'll also provide a percentage complete for that particular category. The bottom part of this section lists the number of approved objectives from your grant agreement, project description, and budget form. That will auto-populate from information you've already provided. Again, once you're finished, ready to move on, just click Next, and you can move to the next section, Status Updates. In this section, Status Updates, you will provide a status update for each of your objectives and activities. These objectives and activities will pre-populate directly from your project description, grant agreement, and budget form. So for each project objective, you'll pick the eligible expenses included as part of that objective. You may select more than one, as many as are applicable. After that, you'll then indicate the overall status of the objective, the overall progress, whether it is complete, not started, or in progress. The activities for each objective and their completion date will also auto-populate. You can update the completion date if necessary, but if you do, you will need to explain why you're updating it in this text box below. That new end date must be on or before March 31st, 2026. Again, that is the deadline for any grant activities. In this box below, you'll also summarize any progress you made on that activity in the last quarter. You'll repeat this process I just described for all of your activities. Depending on how many activities and objectives you have, they may stretch across pages. If they do, just click Next to move to the next page. At the end of the status updates section, you'll have a chance to upload any pictures, surveys, reports, or anything else that demonstrates the impact of your project. Remember, if you upload any pictures of individuals, you must include a signed release from anyone included in that picture. Also, please include the name and number of the relevant objective in the title of any documents you upload, just so we know what it's associated with. Again, once you're ready, we'll just click Next, and you will move to Summary of Key Activities. In Summary of Key Activities, first you'll identify 1 to 2 successes from your projects. Next, you'll give 1 to 2 examples of how Bridge to Recovery funding has helped improve the health, safety, or well-being of older adults and people with disabilities, or reduced isolation for individuals you serve. Finally, if your project included any facility modifications and your lease or title expires before March 31st, 2026, you can provide updated lease information here just by uploading it at the bottom. Again, when you're ready, you just click Next and we'll move to the final page. On the last page, you will mark off your attestations and submit your progress report. Before you submit that report, please review it thoroughly to make sure your responses are accurate and complete. Again, if you are missing any answers on any of those required questions, you will see that error message and you'll need to go back and enter your answers. Once you're finished, you've checked everything, it looks good, it's accurate, it's complete, you've answered every question. You can then click Sign and Submit here at the bottom to submit your progress report. Please keep in mind you must click that Sign and Submit button for your progress report to be submitted. Even if you fill in all the questions, if you don't hit that Sign and Submit button, we never get it and it has not been submitted. So that ends our walkthrough of the progress report form for round 1 of the Bridge to Recovery grant. So now let's just talk briefly about what happens after you submit your report. So once you submit your report, PCG will review it and hopefully approve it if everything looks good. If we do have any questions or want to discuss anything about your report, we will reach out to the contact person you provided to get that information. If you find any errors in your report or need to make any changes after you submit it, you can email CDA_bridge to recovery at pcgus.com to make that revision request. We just ask that you do send any revision request at least 72 hours before the deadline for that report. That brings us to the end of our training. Thank you for attending and for your continued engagement with the Bridge to Recovery grant program. If you do have any questions about completing your report or anything else, you can email us at cda_bridge to recovery@pcgus.com or call 866-535-8669.